What is going on YouTube fitness family? Eric Janicki back here with another video, and very exciting. Chris Bumstead is about to make his open bodybuilding debut, and we are going to analyze today whether his progress over the last few years has been due to his training or something else. So I found a video from 4 years ago where he was training back, just because I found his most recent video where he was training with Martin Fitzwater was also back. So I wanted to see if he's evolved in his training methodology and really helped him grow, because we've seen it, especially his back. His legs have always been terrific, right? But one of the biggest body parts that people have argued that Chris has brought up the most is his back. So I wanted to explore whether his training and the differences in his training have actually been substantive in changing that and making it maybe one of his best poses, that back double bicep. So without further ado, let's go in and check out Chris from 4 years ago in this video, straight off his YouTube channel. I wasn't trying to be biased. I haven't watched this yet, but let's get into it.
What is up, YouTube? Today,
God, he's so cute, bro. So sus, bro. I'm sorry. He's just so cute, bro. Like, there's this, you can't not like Chris Bumstead. Just like, he's got this smile on his face, good looking cat. He has aged though. It's crazy. Like, this is only 4 years ago. He looks like 10 years younger. Not gonna lie. No offense, Chris, but it happens.
So, starting here, warm up, and move on to some kind of heavy row.
All right, so starting with a pull down movement, it's literally one of my favorite things to do, is to warm up the back with a movement that's not gonna put any essential axle loading or any type of hip hinge that's gonna put a lot of stress on the lower back from the get-go. I know a lot of people like to start with heavy rowing. I just think that for me, to start with a compound movement that's gonna be so CNS taxing is gonna do a couple things. One, it's gonna take a lot of time to warm up to a point where you're probably safe enough not to get injured. And then secondarily, it's such a compound movement in the sense of you're using so many body parts to stabilize, using your legs, slight knee bend, using your lower back, using your glutes, even lats, spinal erectors. So it's a great exercise in the sense of it encompasses a lot of muscle groups, but it's also incredibly CNS taxing, meaning you're gonna get tired doing it. It might hinder your ability to recover or perform the subsequent exercises in the workout as effectively. So he's starting with a pull down movement where we can really start to isolate through the lats, through the lower lats, through the spinal erectors, get everything warmed up. There's no tax on the lower back whatsoever. It almost elongates your spine. So when I do these, I always hold that stretch, especially on that first 2 sets. Let everything open up through my teres, lats, rhomboids, get everything nice and open so I feel like I can drive really good stimulus. So I love it. Love the pull down to start. So what I like about Chris's form here, you see he opens up his chest at the top, at the bottom of the rep, to drive the elbows back and get as much stimulus to the lats as possible. So it's not as much of a lean. A lot of people will lean and actually kind of collapse at the core and pull in like this. What you're doing there is you're actually gonna start pushing the emphasis in your biceps and front delts. So you see he does the opposite. He stretches and he pushes the chest up to the ceiling in order to maximize emphasis in the back and try to minimize as much usage of the bicep and front delt. So what I really like about Chris's training is he does have a nice stretch bias, so he really reaches up at the top. I like him to sit in that stretch for a moment before driving down, just for 2 reasons. One is, as we know, he had subsequently a lat tear. I don't know if it was this year or the year after in his prep. I think it was 2 years ago, so probably 2 years after this video was filmed, where it may have been, this is speculative, it could have been maybe avoided by having the tissue be a little bit more elongated, a little bit more opened up. So if he spent more time in the stretch position, as we know, nobody likes stretch. It sucks. Nobody's gonna sit there for 30 minutes a day and stretch. Or you get to the gym, you have an hour and 15 minutes to train, you're not gonna spend 30 minutes of that stretching. We just all know it never happens. So what you can do is use the movement or the weight to do 4 stretches. So you can get to the top, stretch under load, drive in, big peak contraction, slow eccentric, and you're gonna get that dual effect of maximizing stimulus, but also you're also gonna keep that tissue nice and long and healthy. And I preach that in every single one of my lifts, whether it's legs, back, triceps, biceps. It's going to keep you so much healthier. My joints feel so much better than they did 10 years ago because I utilize this, not because I stretch a ton, it's not because I mobilize a ton, it's because I use the weight to help me open up throughout the workout.
Never really know what's next, to be honest.
All right, that's a very honest thing coming from Chris, and I don't hate it. And here's why. So he said, I don't honestly know what's coming next, and I'll hear what he has to say about that. I think that sometimes structure can be amazing. Like my app that you guys can go utilize right now. Like most people need structure in their training because of the fact that it's going to give you something substantive to follow for, let's say, a 4-week progression. You can progress within those movements, whether it's better form, more time under tension, more stretch. So if you guys are not subscribed to my app, please, please, please check out the link down below. Go and check out the page. You get a free trial. There's really no strings attached. Go check it out. See if you like it. It has full form videos where I walk you through from A to Z how to perform your movement patterns in the most effective way possible. It would mean the world to me. Let's get back into it. So as you see here, he's dropping and stopping right below his kneecap. So always the mindset is that you want to be in what's called like fuarabi, I would say like active ranges of motion, where you're not letting tension off of the muscle group. It's really, there's no science saying there's an active range of motion. Really, what's important is how much stimulus you're driving as compared to the fatigue that's being produced. So what I like to do in a barbell row is actually do the opposite. I'll go even deeper. I'll put boxes under my feet so I can stretch more. And what I do is I don't straighten the elbows completely. I get as much stretch as possible, drive up, and try to get as much out of my lats with as much stretch as possible so I don't have to use as much weight, and I'm basically what's called maximizing mechanical force, using more range of motion as opposed to trying to load more on the bar, which if you shorten the range of motion, you're going to have to inevitably drive more top end load to get just as much stimulus. So if I'm getting more range and still holding on to tension through the lats, I can use less weight, less tax on my lower back, but getting just as much stimulus. And as bodybuilders, we don't want to build out our waist with these super heavy, hip hinge movements generally. So that's why even when I do my RDLs, I'll do them in a deficit so I don't have to use as much weight. I find I get so much more stimulus and soreness from a deficit than a heavier traditional RDL.
I'm gonna really let everything kind of pull, stretch out, relax, and then start the movement, retracting the scapula, driving your shoulders back, and then elbows back. And at the same time, I'm kind of thinking of like trying to do this with my arms to keep my elbows tight, and you really kind of squeeze it in on your back a little bit more, a little bit less focus up on your traps. So you get a nice little squeeze.
That's actually good cueing. So when he's barbell rowing, he's almost like trying to like bend the bar inward and pull the elbows tighter to the body. What that's going to do, like he said, if he's able to maintain more of a downward posture, he's going to be able to maintain more leverage and tension in the lats than he would if he was more upright and pulling, like letting his elbows flare, just like I was mentioning. So again, he's proving my point. Think less about where that force is coming from. So barbell row, you can hit literally every single part of your back. It's just a matter of what's your angle of your upper body, and then where are you driving the elbows. Like those are gonna be the most important factors. All right, form is very strict. It's good. I'm going to say he's hitting more upper back here. Like you just can't argue with it. Look at the elbow drive. It's driving up. He's almost at about 150 degrees with his upper body. So he's about here with the upper body. Anytime you're rising up that much, inevitably you're gonna start pushing the emphasis into your upper back because the elbows are gonna start driving up. The shoulders you can see are slightly elevating at the top of the rep. He's still pulling into the belly button, but the idea being if he really wants to hit more mid-back and build out the development where he was actually looking to, he'd be better served at a deficit, staying more parallel with less weight and more stretch bias, getting through that lower lat and getting that density where he's looking for. Right now, he's kind of driving through that upper back where obviously it's not terrible to get more density there, but for him, the focus was always more X-frame, more spinal rectors, more 3D look, which I think he could have done a better job instead of lifting 275. And I'm going to go back to the most replayed part of the video, which is always interesting for me to see what people are rewatching. All right, ending with some pullovers here, guys. Really, really good finishing movement pattern. You see he's almost flaring out his elbows and keeping a forward lean. So many people will be completely upright and just turn into mostly a tricep and rear delt and teres movement. So teres is kind of like right underneath your armpit. Whereas if you lean forward, you match that vector of force, you turtle shell and push through with kind of wider elbows, you're going to keep more of the emphasis in the back and out of the triceps. So terrific form here overall. Nice, controlled eccentric, big stretch at the top. See how he sticks his head through? He gets that humongous stretch. Like, that's terrific stuff. Guys, I'm gonna give this workout grade from whatever thing 2020, just before the pandemic, maybe 2019. Literally a 9 out of 10. I mean, he's just good, dude. Like, he's learned a lot, and I think that if he just focused a little bit more on the stretch biasing, it would have that dual effect of keeping him healthier and keeping him, you know, a little bit safer and not having to feel like he has to go do rows with 275, 315. But I know even at this point he was already learning, because I remember he used to be doing rows with 405 plus with more like kind of bro-y form, and this is a lot more refined. So let's get into current day Chris Bumstead with Martin Fitzwater and see what they have in store for us and if anything has changed. Like I said, it was a very good starting point, so let's see if there's been any refinement of the form or changing in the methodology of his back training. All right, so this is almost current day, November 2nd. He is training with Martin Fitzwater. Starting the movement a little different. So as you saw with his last workout, he started with a pull, he ended with a pullover. Now he's firing the lats up with a pullover. I'm sure the mindset being like getting really good blood flow through the lats, which as a bodybuilder essentially is probably our most important part of our back if we're going to be honest with ourselves. Like, building the X frame, building out the lats is always the most important. You see guys with really good density, but if they don't create that X frame, even if you're really dense, doesn't usually flow or look as amazing as somebody who's really like flaring lats from both the front and the back poses.
The difference between classic and open.
Yeah.
You have to wear the CPAP and continue to grow.
I would need it.
CPAP.
I'm okay.
I use it, guys. Hugely recommend it. If you creep over 250 pounds, just get the CPAP. I don't care if you think you're sleeping well, you're probably not. You pass over a certain weight point, and it's essentially a necessity.
The mobility's a little bit impaired, so sometimes when it gets out of the groove, it like my shoulder feels so like.
Yeah, this shoulder's fucked, so this one hikes forward, and this one kind of protects with my neck's fucked here, and I'm just like crooked like that. Super interesting. Do you hear that what he said there? Like, one of his shoulders hikes forward, the other one kind of, then he starts to get a lot of neck pain and like kind of knots up in his neck. And I think this is like a testament to that. I think there's even Chris will probably admit to, and he has admitted to, the fact that like there's been parts of his training style that have not been as conducive as he probably wishes they were, considering that they probably caused injury. They probably caused him, you know, things that are impeding his progress even to this day, just by not training with this like really, really solid specificity, with stretch biasing, with more time under tension. And you see him, even his movements now as compared to 4 years ago, how much more acute he's being, how much more he's focusing on the stretch. You see him stretching in that first movement pattern. Let's work into movement pattern number 2.
Calf forward.
Wow, look at that form. You see him pull it down, squeeze, slow eccentric load, big stretch to the top.
I was telling you, his back is retarded strong. This is crazy. Especially his stopping power. Yeah, that's what I mean. I can't control it in the stop and the bottom as good as he can.
That is huge. Coming from literally number 4 guy in the world, Martin Fitzwater said, this dude's back is immensely strong. He can stop, he can control the weight. And that's a testament to Chris changing up his training style and focusing more on the eccentric loading, focusing more on stopping at the bottom so he can start to control that eccentric. All of these things are going to help you become a better bodybuilder and be actually stronger. If you can get the muscle groups you're targeting stronger, you're gonna be stronger, right? Like, if you're just doing compound lifts, you might be getting stronger in terms of what weight you're putting on the bar, but you might not be actually using the muscle groups you're trying to train. You might be able to get the weight from A to B, but it might be more explosive power. It might be using more of your glutes. It might be using something else that actually isn't your back at all. So take note of this, guys. You see even Martin Fitzwater saying Chris is crazy strong, but he's actually changed his methodology to be even more controlled, but he's even stronger. Like, put that into perspective. Like, that's a crazy, crazy analysis.
Let's go.
Dude, this is so good, dude. Like, even on his top sets, you see how he's like so focused, and you see how he's actually not focusing as much on peak contraction, getting way down to here. He's getting to a point where he can keep tension in the lats. And like, this is what I was trying to explain to Fouad Abiad. Like, just because you're doing all the way down to here or pulling and rowing back to here, like, doesn't mean you're actually getting better back stimulus. It just means you're performative and you're trying to move the weight farther than it needs to get into the target muscle group. You're wasting energy, you're wasting fucking time, and you're not even targeting the correct muscle group in the first place. So like, don't think that just because you get it down to your chest and roll your shoulders over it, you're getting a more effective rep than keeping the lats open to tension, chest open to the ceiling, only getting to here and then getting up into that stretch. Beautifully done. Even better than he was doing it 4 years ago, I would say, to an enormous degree. Now we're doing some supinated rowing. This is a cool machine because it puts you right in that elbow position where you're driving in. You're getting a ton of lower lat stimulus due to the supinated ham position, which your elbows are going to drive nice and tight due to the fact that it tracks your pinky. So biggest thing here is a little heavier movement pattern. They see how they have that pin a little bit farther forward. I would put it farther back, get more stretch bias. Don't let the machine bottom out. But other than that, nice eccentric loading, good squeeze. Yeah, I just think he's losing a little bit in that stretch position, but other than that, probably pretty good tempo. You could probably go a little slower, but at the end of the day, this is 90% there. Guys, all about proximity to failure. You see how like he was pretty much there, like couldn't really do another rep. Like, that's where you want to get to with your training, within the confines of good form. That's more important, like I said, than the weight you're putting on the bar. If you're getting more proximity to failure, you have really good form, you're targeting that target muscle group. Like, these things are the most important facets. And then beyond that, like, that's when you talk about exercise selection. That's when you talk about, you know, supersetting, whatever. Like, before that, it's how acutely are you performing? What kind of form are you performing your movements? And how effective are they for you specifically? How much mind muscle connection do you have? Upper back row here.
2 more.
Same thing, not ego lifting, 4 plates. I know Chris could probably go 6, 7 here with more explosive form. He's getting a really good stretch. He's getting a decent eccentric. I'd probably even say go down to 3, get a little bit more eccentric control, bigger stretch, less pressure on the chest, through the pad. Like, it just, for me, when the form looks like that, it probably could be a little lighter. You could probably be getting a little bit better stimulus, a little less fatigue. But at the end of the day, if he's in that nice optimal rep range, he's feeling good mind muscle connection, I don't have that much of a problem with this. So it looks like they finished out with kind of a seated row, a couple other things. But at the end of the day, I think you can get the idea. Like, Chris has become even more refined with his training. He's becoming even more robust in the sense that he's understanding what's really going to drive growth for him is going to be more of that stretch biasing, that slow eccentric load, that less ego lifting, more really trying to focus on that time under tension, mind muscle connection. So I'm giving Chris, before he was like an 8.8 out of 10, now he's like a 9.5 out of 10. He's goated. I would love to train with him. Chris, if you see this video, which you probably never will, please come and train with me. It'd be the biggest honor probably of my life. So I hope you guys love this video. I hope you guys got some value out of it. I know it was a fucking long video, but it's fun to talk about some of the best guys in the world and help you guys understand why they're progressing beyond just the genetic component. Because sure, genetics will take you somewhere, but like, if you're not maximizing potential with your training, with your recovery, with your mindset, like these things, your genetics will only take you so far. And then subscribe to the channel. I love you guys. Leave down in the comments what you guys want to see more of. It's more raw training videos, if it's more me critiquing people and giving you guys advice. Would love to hear more from you guys, and we'll see you on the next video.